My name is Rachel Monroe, and I'm 33 years old. I've spent the last decade helping other people plan their dream weddings. The perfect flowers, the soft lights, the tears when the bride walks down the aisle. But this time, it was my turn. My own wedding. For months, I'd poured my soul into every detail. The ocean breeze at the Charleston venue, the color of the napkins, the playlist that matched the sunset. Ethan, my fiancé, said I was glowing. He called it my designer mode. But deep down, I was glowing because I thought, finally, my parents would be proud of me. You see, my parents, William and Karen Monroe, had always seen me as the steady one, the dependable daughter, the one who didn't need attention because I had it all together. Meanwhile, my younger sister Lily was their golden child, the one who always needed rescuing, the one who got the spotlight, the one whose every whim turned into a family emergency. Still, I believed this wedding would bring us all together again. I imagined Dad walking me down the aisle, Mom fixing my veil, Lily crying happy tears. Then came the phone call that shattered everything. It was a Thursday afternoon. I was reviewing floral samples when my phone buzzed. "Mom," I said, smiling, "please tell me you finally found your dress." Her silence stretched. Then she cleared her throat. "Sweetheart, we won't be able to make it." For a moment, I thought I'd misheard. "What do you mean?" "Lily just got cast in a television pilot in Los Angeles. It's such a big opportunity. We're flying there to help her settle in. The timing's awful, I know, but this is her dream, Rachel. You understand, right?" My hand tightened around the phone. My father's voice came on next, calm, almost rehearsed. "You'll be fine, honey. You've always been independent. This is Lily's big break." Their words hit harder than any slap. My wedding, my one day, had just been weighed, measured, and found less important than my sister's audition. I couldn't even breathe. They didn't sound sorry. They sounded proud. My voice cracked. "Dad, it's my wedding." "I know, but you're strong, sweetheart. Lily needs us more." That sentence, "she needs us more," burned through my chest like fire. I hung up before the tears came. For a long time, I just stood there, surrounded by swatches of silk and white roses, feeling like a stranger at my own celebration. Was I angry? Absolutely. But underneath the anger was something colder. Clarity. If you've ever been replaced in your own family story, if you've ever been told you're fine while someone else got everything, drop your story in the comments below, because you're not alone. And if this hits close to home, hit subscribe. I promise this one's going somewhere you won't expect. Back to that day, I remember staring at my wedding invitation on the table, their names printed in elegant gold letters under Parents of the Bride. I picked up a pen and crossed the words out. That sound, the scarch of ink, felt like freedom and heartbreak at once. That night, I told Ethan what had happened. He just pulled me into his arms and said quietly, "They've been taking from you your whole life, haven't they?" I nodded, unable to speak. But somewhere in that silence, something inside me shifted. If they weren't going to show up for me, I'd make sure the world saw exactly who they were and exactly who I was without them. Because that day, I stopped being the daughter who waited for approval. I became the woman who decided to tell her own story. And what I did next made them wish they'd never chosen Lily over me. When I was a kid, our house in Savannah, Georgia, was the kind of place people called picture perfect. White porch swing, a rose bush my mom tended like it was another child, my dad's laughter echoing from the grill on Sundays. To anyone looking in, we were a family straight out of a Hallmark card. But I remember the moment that picture started to fade. I was 8 when my sister Lily was born. Mom called her our little miracle. She'd struggled for years to get pregnant again. So when Lily finally arrived, the world seemed to revolve around her. Everyone said, "You're such a good big sister, Rachel." And I smiled, because that's what good big sisters do. At first, I didn't mind sharing the spotlight. I'd help rock Lily to sleep, feed her mashed peas, fetch diapers while Mom cooed, "You're my little helper." But as Lily grew, that phrase changed meaning. Being the helper meant I existed to make things easier for everyone else. When I was 10, my parents threw Lily a fifth birthday party with balloons, a clown, and a cake taller than she was. The next week was my birthday. Mom baked cupcakes from a box mix and said, "Let's keep it simple this year, sweetie. We just had such a big celebration for Lily." I remember nodding, trying to convince myself that I didn't care. But that night, I cried quietly into my pillow, pretending the sound of the rain outside was louder than my own sobs. By middle school, the pattern was carved in stone. If Lily wanted piano lessons, she got them. If I needed new shoes for track, Dad said, "You can wait till next month." When I asked why, he smiled, a kind smile that hurt worse than anger. "You're strong, Rachel. You can handle it." I didn't want to be strong. I wanted to be seen. I worked harder, thinking maybe achievement could earn me love. Straight A's, honor roll, debate trophies, none of it seemed to matter. Mom would glance at my certificates and say, "That's nice, honey. Did you hear Lily got the lead in her school play?" I started keeping my wins to myself. The less I expected, the less it hurt. At 13, I spent weeks saving my allowance to buy art supplies. I'd discovered sketching and wanted to surprise Mom with a portrait of our family. The night I finished, I ran downstairs, heart racing, charcoal still smudged on my fingers. Mom was helping Lily with a craft project for school. "Look, Mom," I said, holding up the drawing. She glanced up, smiled faintly, then turned back to Lily. "That's lovely, sweetheart. Hand me the glue, Lily." The sketch slipped from my hands. I picked it up quietly, folded it in half, and slid it into my desk drawer. It's still there, creased and faded. People talk about favoritism like it's an accident, like parents don't mean to do it. But to a child, it feels deliberate. Every overlooked moment tells you you're not enough to make them proud. As Lily grew older, her charm became their oxygen. She sang, danced, acted. Every show, every recital was an event. Mom would beam, Dad would record videos, and I'd sit in the crowd clapping until my palms stung. Sometimes Mom would pat my hand and whisper, "You'll get your turn, honey." But that turn never came. By the time I was 16, I'd stopped waiting for them to notice me. Instead, I learned how to survive without being seen. I got a job at a diner after school, saved every tip in a coffee tin under my bed. Not because I needed the money, but because I needed proof that I could build something on my own. I remember one night, after a long shift, I came home to find Dad in the living room watching Lily perform on the local news. Some talent showcase for teens. "She's going places," he said proudly. I stood in the doorway, sweaty from work, holding a tray of leftover pie I brought home. He didn't look at me once. That was the moment I realized love in our house wasn't shared. It was rationed, and I'd been living on crumbs for years. Still, some part of me believed that one day they'd turn and see me standing there, the daughter who never caused trouble, who just wanted a seat at the same table. But that day never came. College was supposed to be my clean slate, a place where I could finally exist without being Lily's sister. I got into the University of Georgia on a partial scholarship for design, and for the first time, I felt like my life was mine. I remember packing my old Corolla with boxes of sketchbooks and dorm supplies, waving goodbye to my parents as they fussed over Lily's braces instead of my new beginning. 2 hours into the drive, my phone buzzed. A text from Mom. "Drive safe. Lily just got invited to sing at the state fair. We're so proud." Of course she did. By my sophomore year, it became clear that distance didn't change the pattern. It only made it quieter. Every phone call home started the same way. "Hey Mom, I just finished a huge project." "That's great, sweetie, but you'll never guess what Lily did." Lily had joined a performing arts program. Then she got an agent. Then a billboard. Every update about her came wrapped in pride. Every update about me vanished into the background noise of, "You're fine, Rachel." Once, I told my mom I was struggling to pay rent between classes and work. She sighed, distracted. "Your sister's been feeling anxious lately. We might need to help with her therapy bills." I didn't ask again. When I graduated, I mailed them invitations to my portfolio showcase, a small but important event for my design career. Mom texted back, "Can't make it. Lily's got callbacks that week." Dad sent a thumbs up emoji. I remember standing in that exhibition hall, surrounded by strangers clapping for my designs, and all I could think about was the 2 empty chairs in the front row. It's funny. People say anger is loud, but mine was silent. It built quietly, layer after layer, like paint thickening on a canvas. Each missed call, each forgotten event, each moment of being dismissed, it hardened into something solid. After graduation, I got a job at a wedding planning firm in Charleston. The irony wasn't lost on me. I spent my days creating perfect families on paper while mine cracked in the background. Lily's career, meanwhile, exploded. She wasn't just in commercials anymore, she was the commercial. Mom posted about her every week. Dad joked about being her manager. And when I landed my first big client, a hotel wedding with a 6-figure budget, I called home just to share the news. Mom answered, her voice bright. "Oh, honey, that's nice. Listen, Lily just got signed by a talent agency in LA." I could almost hear the confetti in her tone. It didn't matter what I did. Lily's name always came first. At Christmas that year, I drove back home with a box of gifts. Small things I'd picked out carefully, a silk scarf for Mom, a leather journal for Dad. But when I walked into the living room, every surface was covered in Lily's photos, magazine clippings, posters, framed headshots, the shrine of a golden child. Mom rushed over, hugging me with one arm while balancing a call from Lily's publicist. Dad patted my shoulder absent-mindedly. "Glad you could make it, kiddo. You look tired." I wanted to scream. I wanted to say, "I'm not tired, Dad. I'm done." But the words stuck in my throat. Later that night, Lily came home from a trip, bursting through the door with her glossy hair and airport latte. She hugged me, quick, effortless, rehearsed, and said, "You still doing that wedding stuff? That's so cute." That sentence, "that's so cute," cracked something deep inside me. It was how she said it, not cruelly, just like she didn't know any better. Because no one ever taught her that I existed outside her reflection. When I left the next morning, Mom pressed leftovers into my hands and said, "Don't be a stranger, sweetheart. Lily's next show is in April. Maybe you can come support her." That drive back to Charleston was the first time I truly felt the weight of it all. I wasn't angry at Lily for being loved. I was angry at myself for thinking love was something I had to earn. But anger, when ignored long enough, doesn't disappear. It sharpens. And mine was getting ready to cut through everything I once believed about family. By the time I turned 30, I had stopped waiting for applause. I poured myself into work instead, building a reputation as Charleston's go-to wedding planner. My clients called me the calm in the chaos. Every event I designed was full of meaning, joy, connection, love, everything I'd been chasing my whole life. And when I walked into a ballroom glowing with candlelight, watching two families come together, it always stirred something in me, a longing I could never name. In 2022, my firm finally took off. I opened my own studio downtown, exposed brick walls, white orchids by the window, shelves lined with color palettes. It was my dream come true. I mailed my parents invitations to the grand opening, handwritten with gold ink, hoping they'd see what I'd built on my own. They never came. Dad texted that morning, "Sorry, kiddo, Lily has a premiere in Atlanta tonight. We can't miss it." I stared at the message until the words blurred. Not even congratulations. I thought I was numb to disappointment by then, but it still hit me, that same dull ache I'd carried since childhood. It wasn't just the absence, it was the predictability of it. They'd never show up for me, not when Lily was around. Still, I told myself maybe things would be different when I got married. Maybe that day, they'd finally remember they had 2 daughters. When Ethan proposed a year later, under the oak trees near the harbor, I said yes through tears. He was kind, steady, patient, the sort of man who listened even when I couldn't find the words. His parents, Tom and Diane Brooks, welcomed me like I'd been theirs all along. Sunday dinners, family game nights, birthday calls. It felt foreign and warm at the same time, like oxygen after years of holding my breath. We spent months planning the wedding, a spring ceremony at a seaside ranch outside Charleston. I designed everything myself. Wildflowers, linen runners, string lights swaying in the salt breeze. I wanted my parents to see it, to see me. I sent them the invitations with a personal note tucked inside. "This day means everything to me. I'd love for you to be there." Weeks passed with no response. Finally, I called. Mom picked up on the second ring. "Hey, sweetheart," she said, sounding distracted. "Did you get the invitation?" "Yes, we did, but it's complicated." "Complicated how?" There was a pause. Then she said the words that broke me. "Lily got invited to an industry retreat in Malibu. It's the same weekend. Your father and I promised to go with her. She needs the support." I swallowed hard. "It's my wedding, Mom." "I know," she said softly, "but you'll have so many people there. Lily's event could change her whole career." I waited for her to take it back, to realize what she had said, but she didn't. Dad called later that night. His tone was calm, detached. "This isn't personal, Rachel. It's just timing. You'll understand one day when you have kids." "Understand what?" I snapped. "That Lily's opportunity is once in a lifetime." The silence after that felt endless. Finally, I said, "You've said that my whole life. Every birthday, every excuse, every time you chose her. I'm done understanding." He sighed. "Don't make this about you." I hung up. For the first time in my life, I didn't cry right away. I just sat there on the couch, staring at the walls, listening to the hum of the refrigerator. It was the sound of finality. When the tears finally came, they weren't quiet. They were years in the making. Every birthday forgotten, every milestone ignored. I cried until I couldn't breathe, until my chest ached from holding everything in for so long. Ethan found me like that, curled up on the floor. He didn't say anything, just knelt beside me and pulled me into his arms. "They don't get to ruin this," he whispered. "Not this time." I wanted to believe him. But that night, as I lay awake staring at the ceiling, I felt something inside me collapse. Not just sadness, but the final breaking of hope.
For 33 years, I had been reaching for hands that would never reach back. And I realized it was time to let go.
The morning after that call, something inside me went still, not broken, still, like a lake after a storm. I made coffee, sat by the window, and stared at the wedding binder I'd built with months of love and anticipation. Every page had my parents somewhere in it. Mom helps pick flowers. Dad gives toast. I tore those pages out. The sound of paper ripping felt like an exhale. If they weren't coming, fine. This day would still be mine. Better yet, it would be beautiful without them. Ethan didn't question the sudden fire in my eyes. He just smiled and said, "Tell me what you need." So I did. We spent the next weeks rebuilding everything from the ground up. Not just the guest list or seating chart, the meaning. Every detail would honor the people who had shown up for me. His parents, Tom and Diane Brooks, became the heartbeat of the preparations. Diane helped me choose wildflowers, her soft Southern accent filling the studio as she told stories about her own wedding in the 80s. Tom handled logistics, rentals, parking, catering calls, with an easy calm that steadied everyone. At first, I felt guilty accepting their help. Then Diane took my hands and said, "Honey, family isn't always the people who raised you. Sometimes it's the people who show up." Her words sank deep. That was the moment my wedding stopped being about proving anything to my parents. It became a celebration of belonging. I poured myself into design again, but this time it wasn't to impress. It was to feel alive. We draped the reception barn in soft lanterns, hung twinkle lights between oak trees, and placed handwritten notes on each table. "Thank you for being part of our story." Friends I'd made through years of weddings rallied around me. Photographers, florists, caterers, each refusing payment. "We've seen how much heart you give everyone else. Let us give some back." The night before the wedding, we gathered at the venue for setup. The air smelled of sea salt and magnolia. Diane walked beside me, holding a bouquet ribbon. "You okay, sweetheart?" she asked. I smiled. "For the first time in a long time, I think I am." When dawn broke, the sky blushed pink over the marshes. I slipped into my lace gown in the bridal cottage, surrounded by friends' laughter, instead of the silence I'd feared. In the mirror, I saw a woman who'd stopped chasing approval and started owning her life. When the music began, I stepped outside. Instead of my father's arm, Diane was waiting. She was nervous. She said, "I'd be honored." I looped my arm through hers, tears threatening to spill. We walked together down the aisle, lined with wildflowers swaying in the breeze. Ethan's eyes found mine, steady and certain. He mouthed, "You're home." The ceremony felt like sunlight, warm, forgiving. Every vow we spoke peeled away another layer of hurt, replacing it with peace. When we kissed, the crowd erupted, not polite applause, but real joy. For a moment, I forgot what was missing. Later, at the reception, laughter filled the air. Tom and Diane danced like teenagers. My friends toasted with tears and jokes. The photographer caught every unguarded smile. Somewhere between the cake cutting and the first dance, I realized the truth. I hadn't lost a family that day. I'd gained one. When the night slowed, I stepped outside for air. The ocean whispered against the shore, and the lanterns flickered behind me. I pulled out my phone out of habit, and there it was, a notification. Mom's post. A photo of her, Dad, and Lily smiling on a Malibu beach, captioned, "So proud of our girl chasing her dreams. Family trip of a lifetime." For a moment, my chest tightened. Then nothing. No tears, no anger, just a quiet understanding. They'd made their choice, and I'd made mine. I looked back at the glowing barn, heard Ethan's laugh, felt the sand beneath my heels, and smiled. Because finally, this wasn't their story anymore. It was mine. The morning after the wedding, sunlight poured through the curtains like forgiveness. I woke up to the smell of coffee and the sound of Ethan humming in the kitchen. For a moment, I just lay there, staring at the ring on my finger, feeling something I hadn't felt in years. Peace. Real, quiet peace. My phone buzzed on the nightstand. A message from my best friend Marcy. "Girl, your wedding broke the internet." I blinked. "What?" She sent a link. It was a TikTok video, behind-the-scenes clips she'd filmed the night before. It showed me walking down the aisle with Diane, the laughter, the sunset, the vows. The caption read, "When her own parents skipped her wedding, his family made sure she was never alone." I watched it, tears pooling in my eyes, not from sadness, but from disbelief that strangers could care so deeply. Within hours, the video had over 1 million views. Comments flooded in. This made me cry. She deserved that happiness. Parents like hers don't realize what they've lost. I've been the responsible daughter too. Thank you for sharing this. Somewhere inside me, a space I thought was empty began to fill again, not with validation, but with community. Later that day, Ethan called me over. Rachel, you might want to see this." He showed me his phone. My mother's Malibu post, the one of her, Dad, and Lily smiling on the beach, had started circulating. Someone had commented, "Wasn't this the same weekend as your older daughter's wedding?" Another person replied, "Yikes, this is awful." Within hours, the thread blew up. People in our hometown recognized them. A local Charleston news blog even wrote a short feature about the wedding that went viral. They contrasted the images, my wedding glowing with warmth, my parents' post flaunting their trip. They didn't have to name names. Everyone already knew. By evening, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Old classmates, colleagues, even distant relatives reached out. Half of them wrote to congratulate me. The other half wanted to apologize for my parents. Meanwhile, I stayed quiet. I didn't post, didn't comment, didn't defend myself. I didn't have to. The internet had drawn its own conclusions. 3 days later, I got a call from an unknown number. I let it ring. Then a voicemail. Mom's voice, shaky and small. "Rachel, please call us back. Things have gotten complicated. People are saying terrible things. We just want to talk." I listened once and deleted it. There was nothing left to say. In the days that followed, the fallout grew. Lily's PR agency quietly dropped her. A brand partnership she'd been chasing vanished overnight. Her Instagram went from curated perfection to a silence that said everything. Their Malibu smiles had become a symbol of selfishness. And the irony wasn't lost on me. For years, I had begged for my parents' attention. Now the whole world was giving it to them. Not to them, but to the truth. I never celebrated their embarrassment, but I can't lie, there was satisfaction in knowing that life had handed them a mirror, and for once they had to look. Ethan noticed me staring out the window one night. "Do you feel better?" he asked. I thought for a moment. "Not better," I said softly, "just lighter." He smiled. Sometimes that's what justice feels like. The video kept circulating for weeks, spawning duets and commentary from family therapists, influencers, and estranged kids everywhere. It became more than my story, it became ours. The story of every person who ever loved too hard and was met with indifference. One comment stayed with me the most. A woman wrote, "This isn't revenge. This is peace finding its way to the right person." And she was right. Because I hadn't planned any of it. I hadn't sought to humiliate them. I had simply lived my truth. And the world noticed. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel invisible. I felt seen, understood, and, strangely, free. A year after the wedding, the marsh grass outside our Charleston home swayed in the same slow rhythm as the tide. The world had quieted down. The viral storm that once surrounded my name had faded into memory, replaced by something gentler, a steady kind of peace that hums in the background of a good life. Ethan and I had bought a small cottage by the water. Every morning, he brewed coffee while I watched pelicans skim across the river. Sometimes, in those soft, golden hours, I thought about the woman I used to be, the daughter constantly checking her phone for a text that never came. Now, when my phone buzzed, it was usually a client or a friend, not my parents. And I was finally okay with that. After the wedding went viral, my parents tried a few more times to reach me. Voicemails full of regret, half apologies tangled with excuses. Mom cried, saying, "We didn't realize how it looked." Dad said, "The internet blew things out of proportion." Not once did they say, "We were wrong." I didn't call back. Instead, I wrote a letter, one I never sent but needed to write. "You taught me to be strong by never being there when I needed you. You taught me independence by forcing me to raise myself emotionally. And you taught me love by showing me what it's not." Folding that letter closed felt like placing a stone on a grave, not of them, but of the version of me that kept chasing them. Meanwhile, my business had grown beyond anything I imagined. Clients flew in from out of state asking for that signature Monroe warmth. Every time I walked into a new venue, I carried the lesson the internet had whispered back to me. You don't need the people who overlook you to validate your worth. Still, I won't pretend I never miss them. Some nights, when the sky turns violet over the water, I picture my dad's laugh, my mom's perfume, Lily's endless energy. Then I remember the silence that came when I needed them most, and I breathe out the ache before it settles. Lily eventually reached out, not publicly, but through a handwritten note. It arrived folded in half, no return address. She wrote, "I'm sorry. I didn't understand how much I took from you. I thought you didn't care. I was wrong." There were tear stains on the paper. I didn't respond right away. Maybe one day I will. But for now, forgiveness doesn't have to look like reunion. Sometimes it's just letting the bitterness stop dictating the next sentence of your life. One evening, Ethan found me sketching on the porch, rough outlines of flowers and flowing fabrics for a new design project. He sat beside me and asked, "What are you drawing?" I said something soft, something that feels like healing. He nodded, resting his head against mine. He said, "That's your specialty." We watched the sunset melt into the horizon, the air thick with salt and honeysuckle. I realized then that love wasn't the grand gestures or the loud declarations. It was this: quiet, consistent, safe, the kind that doesn't make you fight to earn your place. If you're watching this and you've ever begged for love from people who only give you crumbs, I want you to hear me. Stop begging. Build your own table. Invite those who feed your spirit, not those who drain it. Family isn't defined by blood or last names. It's built by choice, by presence, by the people who notice when you're quiet and sit beside you anyway. I used to think justice was seeing my parents regret their choices. Now I know justice is waking up every morning without needing their approval. So here's what love really means. It's not about being chosen first. It's about choosing yourself fully without apology. If this story reminds you of your own, if you've ever felt invisible, dismissed, or unloved, tell me in the comments how you found your way back to yourself. Because somewhere out there, someone needs to hear your version of survival. I'm Rachel Monroe, and this was my story. Not about revenge, but about returning home to myself.